The restoration of Gehanna's one-room schoolhouse has been a tiring yet rewarding experience for the Gehanna members active in this project. The idea took shape when Gehanna Lincoln High School teacher Tom Gregory noticed an old brick building on the side of the road near the YMCA. He decided to investigate.
It started 3 years ago when I was driving down the road past the Gehanna Y, and I had noticed this garage, and I looked a little closer at it, and I thought, my gosh, I think that might be a one-room schoolhouse, but I didn't know.
The project expanded, with Gregory campaigning for the salvation of the Gehanna one-room schoolhouse to individuals across the entire community.
A year after that, I found out through the paper that the city had bought the property. Both of the buildings were in disrepair. They didn't know anything about the history and were set to demolish those buildings. And so I raced into the city. Luckily, I had already done the research, and I talked to them, let them know what the schoolhouse was, or the garage was once a one-room schoolhouse. And so they agreed to let us try to raise money and allow that building to sit there.
He soon found Jan Elsie, another man interested in restoring the schoolhouse and who has always had a love for preserving history.
Who I want to introduce now, I can't say enough about what he's done for this project. I didn't exactly know what I was getting myself into. It sounded like a great idea to restore a one-room school. And I thought, it's one building. Can't be that difficult. Luckily, he's the one that contacted me. And I said, oh, absolutely. I'd love you to help. And I don't know how I would have done it. I don't think it would have been possible. Jan has made such a huge impact. He saved the windows from the building. He built the tower. He saved the door. That building is authentic as we can possibly make it with the materials that are left. And he put in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours just out of the goodness of his heart, because he loves history, he loves this community.
I like old structures. I feel once they're gone, they're gone. I would rather have children have a chance to experience the history rather than read a plaque that says, here once stood the Jefferson Township No. 2 school. It's much more interesting for them. They learn much more coming in and spending 2 days here going to school than reading a plaque. And that's the main reason why I got involved.
With these two men at the front of the campaign, nothing seemed impossible, except containing the budget to a reasonable, attainable price.
I introduced the idea to the school board at the time, and they were all very excited about it. And then we began the task of raising money. The superintendent, Mr. Scrucci, sat down with the mayor of Gehanna, and we all talked about and were in agreement about how to progress. A number of businesses, individuals, and organizations all donated money, but we got to a point where we had raised $60,000, and I had exhausted, and it was a tough economy, still a tough economy at the time, and I had almost abandoned the idea that we wouldn't be able to do the schoolhouse. Dale Ford approached me to speak to the Gehanna Jefferson Education Foundation about the project, and I said, well, I can, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen. And so I spoke to the foundation, and the foundation does so many good things for the teachers in this district, all kinds of programs here, and they've made such a difference. But I mean, we were 20,000 short. And then about a half hour after I left the meeting, I got word that they were going to make up the difference. And from the point when I went into the meeting, I thought after 2 years of all this work and everything, I didn't think it would be happening. They made sure that it happened.
With the funds in order, it was time to begin the planning and construction phases of the project. All of the bricks from the original one-room schoolhouse building were preserved for the new addition of a Gehanna monument, but one question remained: where would we build the schoolhouse? Initially, the plans were set to construct the schoolhouse behind Gehanna Middle School South. After much contemplation, the board members decided to move the schoolhouse to a more prominent location in the community.
The one-room schoolhouse that we're working as a school to restore, the location was originally supposed to be at Middle School South. The superintendent and Scott Schmidt, the director of business and operations, all agreed that they wanted it to be more visible to the community. So they decided to move the location. It's between the high school and Lincoln Elementary, behind the football stadium back there. It'll be a very public location, visible to the community and everyone else. It'll make it easier for people in the community to visit the schoolhouse as well.
Many students helped out with the restoration of the Gahanna one-room schoolhouse. Art classes at the high school helped assemble three-dimensional cardboard schoolhouses to display around the community and generate awareness for the schoolhouse project. Architecture students at the Eastland Fairfield Career Center, located in Lincoln High School's Clark Hall, were also working on the drafting proofs for the schoolhouse's new location near the elementary and high school.
Hello, my name is Trevor Swanson. I'm from Pickerington North. I'm an out-of-district student that's a part of the architecture construction management class. I've been interning at a firm. The firm's called George Park and Associates. It's located near Creekside, and they are in charge of doing the construction drawings for the Gahanna Schoolhouse. And my involvement of the project has been doing the drafting of the construction drawings. I've been working on these for about 3 weeks. They've gone through about 4 revisions, and I've put about 4 hours a day, 5 days a week on these. They have been submitted to the zoning department last Friday, so I think it takes about 4 weeks for them to be approved.
In addition, some of the other architecture students helped to build a three-dimensional model of the schoolhouse to be put on display in the various Gahanna Jefferson schools across the district.
We were given a packet of information containing all of the necessary details about the schoolhouse that we're going to be recreating, and basically we're going to be making a model 3D of the schoolhouse, and it's going to be placed on the school grounds of Lincoln Elementary, and the display of our model is going to be put at Gahanna, maybe in the elementary school and at the high school, and we hope it goes great.
Another important task was collecting all of the trinkets and memorabilia to be displayed in the finished one-room schoolhouse. Tom Gregory shares with us how he organized and set up donations for the Gahanna Schoolhouse.
And then the building was taken apart and stored for the winter. And I spent the winter myself collecting desks, items, people from all over Central Ohio, the state, outside of the state, all over the nation. Just through the internet, it's amazing. When people heard what we were doing, sent us items.
The restoration team received many material donations for schoolhouse furnishing purposes. Items included bookshelves, vintage postcards, antique books, slates, McGuffey readers, oil lamps, pencil boxes, vintage Ohio maps, old textbooks, antique typewriters, handheld school bells, antique inkwells, and the list extends to include an assortment of educational items used in the 1800s. In addition to the original bricks used in the construction of Gahanna's refurbished one-room schoolhouse, all of the slate and the windows were keepsakes from the initial schoolhouse. This project was one enormous task that required expert planning, generous funding, and countless hours of laborious dedication. Now that the schoolhouse is complete, it is safe to say that all of the hard work spent designing and executing a plan for restoration has paid off. What do you remember about Gahanna during the days that you attended the Gahanna one-room schoolhouse?
I think there were about 400 people. You knew everybody. You go up and down the street, you knew everybody in Gahanna, and everybody knew you. We lived on McCutcheon Road, right there it goes into Stigler. So it was only just a half a mile. So we just walked to school. We went there to the grocery, and we went to church. The Earls had lived there all their lives, and so it was well known.
What can you tell us from your memories about Gahanna's one-room schoolhouse?
We're all in the one building in Gahanna. It was a very small group. There were only just 2 other ones in my class. It was a very small class. When I went down, I was then in the 1st grade. There weren't very many in there. I was the only one. So on the 2nd day when he called, he didn't call 1st grade. He called 2nd grade. So he said I was then in the 2nd grade. So I skipped the whole 1st grade. I was the youngest one in my class all the way through. In fact, when I graduated, and in June I was 16, because I was only there the 1 year, you see. Since we went, when I was in the 3rd grade, then we moved over to Gahanna Grade School. And my teacher was Mr. Gibbs, and he drove to school in his 2-seated buggy and a horse. And we thought that was great to see that horse. There was, of course, an outhouse in the back and a stream going along of the yard. So we played out there, did all our running games. We didn't play ball, but we played all running games. There was a big fence out in the back with a big broad top. We used to sit out there and eat our lunch out there. We took our lunches every day, and my brother always went down early and started the fire in the winter. Every holiday we would have a big program and invite all the parents, of course. We had reading and writing and arithmetic, and that's about all.
Why do you believe that it's important that current Gahanna students experience a one-room schoolhouse?
I think too many people don't know what it was like. And I think it really was an experience that I'm glad I had. When they talk about it, they say, well, it's very strange, you know. But there weren't that many people, so you didn't need a big school. And one teacher took care of all of them. I think they could learn that there would be all the grades in one room. See how it was to just have one teacher do all your classes.
After countless hours of funding and constructing Gahanna's one-room schoolhouse, the building officially opened to the public on Wednesday, October 23, 2013. It was a monumental celebration held in the adjacent Lincoln Elementary School gymnasium, in which many community members came out to support the dedication.
I want to thank everyone for being here today. This project has certainly been a long time coming.
The presentation consisted of speakers Tom Gregory, WGLH-TV advisor, and Jan Elsie, one of the construction leaders. Elsie was especially thrilled with the heavily anticipated schoolhouse debut.
Well, this is, of course, the day that we've been looking forward to for 14 months. And when we started last September, it seems like a long way off, but it's really gone very fast. And the winter gave us an opportunity to do a lot of the repair of the windows and doors and build the bell tower, find a lot of artifacts that are going in there. That was all good for the winter. And then when spring and summer came, the construction went, I thought, very well. The contractors were really diligent in getting their work done. Even though a lot of them were donating their time, they would work 3 days and then they'd have to go work at a job where they'd get paid for 2 days so that they could make payroll. And so it really worked out very well for us.
As the WGLH correspondent for Gahanna's one-room schoolhouse, I was astounded by the finished product. What a great local piece of history restored. Thanks to the tireless efforts of those who commissioned the salvation of this schoolhouse, Gahanna adds yet another unique aspect to the town's history. Be sure to stay tuned for additional stories on the field trip offered to Gahanna Elementary School students here at the schoolhouse. Reporting for WGLH-TV, this has been Bethany Bella.
This one-room schoolhouse, once slated for demolition, will now bring history to life for the Gahanna community.
So often people think of history as these famous people, that are in textbooks. And I wanted them to see that history is in your own community, your own family and your ancestors in this community have meant so much.
Gahanna Lincoln High School teacher Tom Gregory was curious about an old dilapidated building being used as a garage off of Johnstown Road. So he looked into its history, and it turned out to be an old schoolhouse from the 1860s.
About 2 weeks before they were slated to be demolished, I went in and showed them the proof that I'd already done and asked them to hold off at least tearing down the garage to give us time to fundraise. And they agreed. And so that's really where all the fundraising efforts started, and we went to the community and all kinds of individuals and businesses.
With $80,000 in donations and the support of the community, the vision to renovate the old schoolhouse at Gahanna Lincoln Elementary became a reality.
When we got into the school, there wasn't much left. It had been a garage. But there was one sheet of plywood up in the very top, in the attic, and in there was, on that box, or on that sheet of plywood, was a box, and in that was some ceramic apples that must have been given to a teacher, a lot of old bottles, and so those have been brought over as well. Just recently, one of the granddaughters of the people who went to school brought us books that were used by their grandparents in this school, and a pencil box.
Retired Gahanna teacher Sharon Cremeen played in this very schoolhouse when it was a garage next to her home. She will now volunteer here as a school marm.
Yeah, I only knew it as a garage, and to see it as a real classroom, it's just really amazing to see all the work that they have put into it to make it authentic. I think the community is going to get involved with it and see it as a true asset to Gahanna.
Okay, the teacher welcomes you in.
3 years ago, a small building along State Route 62 caught the attention of a Gahanna Lincoln High School teacher. After doing some research, what looked like an old garage turned out to be something far more interesting. Meteorologist Ben Gelber has his story.
It's really important for students to understand the local history, and it helps them to really connect. It's important for them to see this community just didn't happen.
Tom Gregory teaches at Gahanna Lincoln High School. When he heard that the city of Gahanna had bought a property with an intriguing small brick building, he came to rescue a piece of history. Turns out the building was a one-room schoolhouse more than a century ago that had been converted into a garage in 1927 before falling into disrepair. Further research led Tom to Ruth Earl, 99, who attended the school in 1919 and fondly recalled her teacher.
And he drove to school in his two-seated buggy and a horse. And we thought that was great to see that horse.
After Tom learned the school was built on farmland owned by the family of a retired school teacher, he contacted 88-year-old Norma Gorsuch, whose mother had attended what was Jefferson Township School Number 2.
She was 4 years old, and she had two older sisters who were going here to school, and she wanted to go to school. And he didn't want her to go.
Norma had discovered an old picture which she passed on to the Gahanna Gazette. Her goal was to retain a piece of Gahanna school history. Tom Gregory realized he had little time to preserve that schoolhouse before it was scheduled to be demolished.
So we're going to take the bricks apart, the trusses, the slate, and we're going to store that over the winter, and we are moving it to a site on school property. Our hope is to turn it into a living museum. So we're going to convert it back to a schoolhouse, have desks, chairs, have a retired teacher come in and act as a school marm. Kids can come during the day and see what school was like in the 1800s.
Such such a rich history of things here in Central Ohio and in Ohio in general, just about any state. There's always something that you can find that it might look insignificant, but has a lot of history.
It's a treasure, and the fact that folks are taking the opportunity to save and preserve that history. Tom has raised $60,000. His goal is $80,000 to complete the renovation, and we'll come back and visit this spring or early summer when the school is rebuilt.
That's
Now that the Jefferson Township No. 2 Schoolhouse is complete with its renovations, the Schoolhouse Committee is opening the doors. Class is in session. The summer of 2013 saw an extensive construction project on this side of Gahanna. Tom Gregory, Gahanna-Lincoln High School teacher and lifelong Gahanna resident, discovered the remnants of the Jefferson Township No. 2 Schoolhouse and decided to dedicate a substantial portion of his time to restoring the schoolhouse in a more prominent location in the community. All of the brick and slate on the rooftop are from the original building, once located off of Johnstown Road or Route 62. The one-room schoolhouse was designed with Johnstown's Cornell School in mind. The Cornell School is another restored one-room schoolhouse that takes students for a one-day field trip and lets them experience what school would have been like over 100 years ago.
Now you have to stand when you read and read so I can hear it, or you're going to have homework.
On October 23, 2013, the Gahanna Schoolhouse held a dedication ceremony and was finally opened to the eager Gahanna public.
Okay, the teacher welcomes you in.
The first groups of students who have visited the one-room schoolhouse have been kindergarten and fourth grade classes from next-door neighbor Lincoln Elementary. I stepped in to observe a kindergarten class experience the schoolhouse in all its glory.
We have to crank and then talk into it and hold it up like this. Maybe some of you have seen the TV show Little House on the Prairie.
Almost every student was astounded by the various antiques that adorn the schoolhouse's interior.
What's your question?
Are those antiques?
They are. Do you know what an antique is?
Yes, very old.
Very old.
Are they off limits?
They are off limits. Very good. You must know a lot about antiques.
The students didn't receive any schoolhouse teachings for the afternoon, just exposure to what the schoolhouse actually looks like on the inside. I talked to Sharon Kameen, the Gahanna Schoolhouse schoolmarm, who will take over the schoolhouse curriculum come next year.
The schoolhouse has been a big, exciting event at Lincoln Elementary. All the children have been watching it being built. It started in the summer, but it was maybe about halfway done when school started. So they have been watching it going up, watching the bricklayers put the bricks on, and the men being on the roof putting the slate on and putting on the finishing touches. So they've been watching it go up, and they have been anxious to get in. So as soon as it was accessible, I wanted to make sure all those classes from Lincoln Elementary could get over and at least see the schoolhouse, because we're not quite ready to have classes in it yet. We want to take it slow, make sure we do it right, but we at least want them to get over here and look at it and talk about it with their parents, and we're hoping to have an open house for the community. We want the community to be involved in using it, or at least coming over and looking at it and keeping the history of Gahanna going, because we have such a great community, and I think it'll be a very positive asset.
It was an interactive and educational day for Gahanna students. The students of Gahanna are eagerly anticipating the one-room schoolhouse field trip and are looking forward to receiving traditional educational lessons. It will definitely be a unique experience. Reporting for WGLH-TV, this has been Bethany Bella.
Back in the day, it was called Jefferson Township School No. 2, but last spring, only a handful of Gahanna residents knew about that piece of history along Route 62 in front of the YMCA. Our Ben Gelber shows us how a local teacher and property owner teamed up to bring back a piece of valuable history.
Last spring, Sharon Cremian's childhood garage was about to be torn down along Route 62 in Gahanna.
It's really important for students to understand the local history.
That's when Gahanna Lincoln teacher Tom Gregory followed history instincts.
This is the one-room schoolhouse that I actually grew up in. It was my garage when I was a young girl.
Together, they raised enough money to salvage what was once a thriving 19th century one-room schoolhouse built in 1869, removing it brick by brick and rebuilding the school adjacent to Lincoln Elementary so others could get a glimpse of the past.
Is everybody on page 187? Do you have it open and ready to go?
Students study reading, writing, arithmetic, and elocution. Very old school.
Dancing was forbidden in many areas, so we would learn songs like Down the Ohio. Something to give the kids a chance to get up and move and sing.
Visiting teachers love to bring their students into the world of living history, complete with McGuffey readers and a Victrola.
To see, the kind of jobs that the students had in the classrooms, a lot different than they are today. They were surprised why they all had to wear dresses, and the boys, they thought it was kind of fun to wear suspenders.
Right now I'm working on cursives, my B's.
Ben Gelber, NBC4.
Well, this holiday weekend is meant for celebration and remembrance.